Dear friends, welcome to our channel. We are very happy to share with you different stories about love and betrayal from around the world. Now let's begin today's story journey. Miguel stood in a corner of the Grand Gomez family wedding venue. The champagne in his hand barely touched. His gaze shifted constantly among the guests, searching for his wife Elena. Today was the wedding of Elena's sister Daniela, and as a brother-in-law, he should have been seated near the main table. However, when guests began to take their seats, he discovered his name wasn't on any place card. A waiter guided Miguel to a temporarily added chair, positioned beside the aisle in the banquet hall. His chair had a noticeable distance from the other tables, as if hastily added as an afterthought. The gazes of surrounding guests occasionally fell upon him, their pity and curiosity causing him to feel a sting. "Is this my seat?" Miguel asked the waiter who guided him, his voice filled with undisguised confusion. The waiter showed an apologetic expression. "Sir, I'm just following the arrangements." Just then, Elena walked through the crowd in an elegant light purple bridesmaid dress, her face bearing a smile that Miguel found increasingly difficult to interpret lately. Behind that smile seemed to hide a certain smugness and contempt. "What's wrong, dear? Is there a problem?" Elena's voice was sweet, yet it made Miguel feel uncomfortable. Miguel pointed to his seat. "My place is in the aisle? What does this mean?" Elena shrugged, her smile unwavering. "Only close family members have formal table seats." This was Daniela's decision. "Close family members." Miguel repeated in disbelief. "We've been married for 7 years. How am I not family?" "Oh, don't be so petty, Miguel. Today is Daniela's big day. Everything should be according to her wishes." Miguel looked around, noticing that Elena's distant cousins and even a college friend she had only met twice had formal seats, while he, Elena's husband, was arranged in the aisle, like an unwelcome outsider. His gaze fell on the main table, where he saw Elena's mother Maria looking in their direction, her face bearing an undisguisable smile. When she noticed Miguel looking at her, she walked over without any attempt to hide her feelings. "What's wrong, son-in-law?" Maria asked, her tone carrying a hint of mockery. "Can't find your place card?" "It seems there isn't one for me," Miguel replied calmly. Maria let out a harsh laugh. "Looks like you're not considered family." After saying this, she turned to Elena. "Dear, there are matters at the main table that need your attention." Miguel watched Elena leave with her mother, without any words of explanation or comfort. In this moment, he felt a clarity he had never experienced before, as if a long-standing fog had suddenly cleared. He stood up, taking out an envelope containing wedding money from his inner suit pocket. "Then I'll be leaving," Miguel said calmly. Elena's face instantly turned pale. "Wait." She hurriedly turned around, reaching out to grab Miguel. "You can't just leave like this." "Why not?" Miguel asked in return. "Since I'm not family, why force myself to stay here?" "You know that's not what I meant." Elena lowered her voice, a flash of panic in her eyes. "This is just a small issue with the seating arrangement." "No, Elena, this is not a small issue. This is your and your family's response to all my efforts over 7 years." Miguel placed the envelope on his temporary seat. "Give Daniela my best wishes for her marriage. I'm going home first." "Miguel." Elena's voice carried a plea, but Miguel had already turned away, walking through the curious gazes and out of the banquet hall. When the cold wind brushed against his cheeks, Miguel took a deep breath, feeling a strange sense of relief. 7 years of marriage became so clear in this moment. He had always been an outsider, never truly able to integrate into the Gomez family circle. Miguel was a civil engineer, specializing in bridge structure design. His work required precise calculations and rigorous analysis, qualities that were equally reflected in his lifestyle. He and Elena met at Madrid Polytechnic University, where Elena was studying marketing. The two met at a campus event. Elena was attracted to Miguel's calm demeanor and clear thinking, while Miguel was impressed by Elena's vitality and social skills. During the first few years after marriage, their relationship was harmonious and balanced. Miguel worked at a well-known engineering consulting firm, responsible for several important infrastructure projects. Elena began her career in the marketing department of a multinational company. They jointly purchased an apartment in the suburbs of Madrid, planning to start a family someday. However, as time passed, subtle changes began to appear. 3 years ago, Elena received an important promotion, becoming the company's marketing director, responsible for business throughout the Iberian Peninsula. Her work became busier, and her social circle expanded accordingly. Meanwhile, although Miguel's career was stable, he lacked the rapid upward trajectory that Elena desired. "You need to be more ambitious, Miguel," Elena often told him. "You're too content with the status quo." Miguel didn't think he lacked ambition. He loved his work and enjoyed the process of solving complex structural problems. In his view, a safe, durable bridge had more value than the height of a position. But this view seemed unable to convince Elena. Back to the present, Miguel drove back to their apartment in northern Madrid. On the way, he recalled Elena's various changes over the past few months: frequent overtime, mysterious phone calls, coolness toward intimate relations. He had attributed these to work pressure, but now couldn't help wondering if there were other reasons. In the apartment, Miguel sat on the sofa, loosening his tie, thoughts tumbling through his mind. On the table was their wedding photo: Elena in a white wedding dress, smiling radiantly, and he, smartly dressed in a suit, eyes full of love. Back then, everything was so simple. Miguel decided to organize his thoughts. As an engineer, he was accustomed to collecting data and analyzing situations when facing problems. He took out paper and pen and began to record Elena's abnormal behaviors over the past half-year. Extended working hours, often returning home late at night, often having emergency work meetings on weekends. Unusually cautious with her phone, newly set up fingerprint lock, reduced intimate contact with him, declined interest in activities with his family, more meticulous clothing and makeup, even when at home. These changes might be explainable when viewed individually, but together, they sketched a possibility he was unwilling to face. Several hours later, Miguel heard the sound of the door lock turning. Elena had returned, her makeup looking somewhat tired but still perfect. She seemed a bit surprised to see Miguel sitting in the living room. "You're back," Elena said softly, putting down her handbag. "I thought you'd go to a hotel." "Why would I go to a hotel? This is my home," Miguel replied calmly. Elena sighed, sitting down opposite him. "I'm sorry about today. It was just a stupid seating arrangement. I didn't know it would turn out like that." "Are you sure?" "Because your mother seemed not at all surprised. You know, my mother has always been very traditional. She believes Daniela's wedding should center around blood relatives." Miguel shook his head. "No, Elena, that's not tradition, that's deliberate exclusion. And you, my wife, actually defend it." "I'm not defending anyone." Elena raised her voice. "I just didn't want to create a scene at Daniela's wedding. So sacrificing my dignity was worth it?" "You're too sensitive, Miguel. Not everything is directed at you." These words stung Miguel. How many times had Elena used the term "too sensitive" to negate his feelings? How many times had he chosen to yield to avoid arguments? "Maybe you're right." Miguel stood up. "Maybe the problem is with me. Maybe I expect too much from marriage." "Miguel, I'm tired, Elena. I'm going to bed. We'll talk tomorrow." The next day was Sunday, and Miguel woke to find Elena had already left the apartment. A note on the kitchen table read, "Emergency meeting, back by noon." Miguel stared at the note, feeling a sting. An emergency meeting on Sunday? The day after Daniela's wedding? He picked up his phone and dialed Elena's number, but the call went straight to voicemail. Miguel put down the phone, deciding to do some housework to distract himself. As he gathered clothes to do laundry, a hotel key card fell from Elena's suit pocket. The card bore the logo of Grand Hotel Madrid, with yesterday's date, the date of Daniela's wedding. Miguel felt his heart rate accelerate, a foreboding feeling enveloping him. Why would Elena have a hotel key card? Didn't everyone go home after the wedding? Miguel sat on the sofa, the key card heavy in his hand. He knew he faced a choice: either continue pretending everything was normal or confront the truth that might destroy his marriage. As someone who valued truth and honesty, he chose the latter. He drove to Grand Hotel Madrid, his heart uneasy. At the front desk, he showed the card, asking which room it belonged to. "This is for room 1507, sir," the receptionist replied politely. "Would you like me to issue you another one?" "No, thank you." Miguel managed a smile. "I just wanted to confirm if it was my room." Miguel left the front desk and walked toward the elevator. He didn't know what he expected to find in room 1507. Perhaps the room had already been cleaned, or maybe he could find some evidence. When the elevator doors opened, he saw a couple walking down the hallway, the man's hand on the woman's waist, both laughing. As they came closer, Miguel's blood froze. The woman was Elena, and the man, a tall, well-dressed gentleman, was pressed intimately against her. The moment Elena saw Miguel, the smile on her face froze. "Miguel? What are you doing here?" Miguel felt a wave of dizziness but forced himself to remain calm. "I think I should ask you the same question, Elena." The man seemed to sense the change in atmosphere and moved slightly away from Elena, but there was no remorse in his eyes, rather a challenging look. "This is Carlos Ferrer, my colleague," Elena hurriedly introduced, her voice slightly trembling. "We're discussing next week's project proposal." In a hotel room, on Sunday morning, Miguel's voice was ice cold. Carlos cleared his throat. "I think I should leave first. Elena, we'll be in touch later." Before turning to leave, he gave Elena a meaningful look. Elena and Miguel stood in the hallway, silence heavy between them. "I can't believe you would follow me." Elena finally spoke, her tone accusatory. Miguel looked at her in disbelief. "I followed you? I found a hotel key card in your pocket, Elena. What are you doing here with that man?" "I told you, we were discussing work." "On the day after the wedding? In a hotel room?" Miguel shook his head. "Stop insulting my intelligence, Elena. This isn't the first time you've done this, is it?" Elena's silence was already an answer. "How long has it been?" Miguel asked, his voice low and calm. "Miguel, can we talk about this at home?" "How long has it been, Elena?" 3 months, Elena finally admitted, her gaze shifting. "But that doesn't matter. It was just a temporary mistake, Miguel. You're the one I love." Miguel took a deep breath, struggling to control his emotions. "So this is what you call an emergency meeting? This is the truth behind your recent overtime." "Not entirely," Elena tried to explain. "Work really is busy, but you still have time for an affair," Miguel interrupted. "You still have time to betray our marriage." The elevator doors opened again, and a family walked out, quickly moving away after sensing the frozen atmosphere in the hallway. "Let's talk at home." Miguel turned toward the elevator. "I don't want to continue this conversation here." On the way home, the car was silent. Miguel's thoughts drifted back to his and Elena's first date, when they talked about their dreams in a small restaurant in Madrid. Back then, Elena had said, "What I admire most is honesty and loyalty. Without these 2 points, no relationship has meaning." Now these words echoed in his mind with biting irony. Back at the apartment, Elena began to cry, tears seemingly meant to evoke Miguel's sympathy. "It was a mistake, Miguel. I don't know what came over me. Carlos gave me a kind of attention and appreciation that you haven't given me lately. So this is my fault?" Miguel asked. "No, that's not what I meant." Elena wiped her tears. "But you've been so focused on your project lately, and I felt neglected." Miguel reflected on their life over the past few months. Yes, he had been focused on an important bridge project, but he had never neglected Elena. On the contrary, it was she who frequently canceled their dates and postponed vacation plans, citing work. "You know what, Elena? This isn't about whether I was busy or not. It's about your choices," Miguel said calmly. "You chose betrayal over communication. You chose deception over honesty. I can change. I'll end my relationship with Carlos. We can go to counseling, rebuild our marriage." Miguel looked at this woman he once deeply loved, now feeling so foreign to him. "Why did you do this? Is it because you love Carlos, or just because he gave you some kind of excitement?" Elena was silent for a moment, then softly answered. "At first it was just the excitement and feeling of being validated. Carlos always praised my abilities, said I deserved more. Then feelings developed. And what about me? What do I mean to you? You're my husband, Miguel. I respect you." "Respect?" Miguel smiled bitterly. "You arrange me in the wedding aisle, betray me with your lover, then tell me you respect me?" Elena had no words. "I need time to think," Miguel finally said. "I'll stay at a hotel near my office tonight. We'll talk tomorrow." As Miguel packed simple overnight items, Elena stood at the bedroom door, true fear on her face. "Will you come back?" Miguel paused his actions, looking at her. "I don't know, Elena. I really don't know." That night, in the hotel room, Miguel tossed and turned, unable to sleep. He recalled the seating arrangement at the wedding, the mother's mockery, now understanding that it wasn't merely coincidence or oversight. It was a revelation of how Elena and her family truly viewed him, a dispensable existence, not worthy of being seen as real family. And now, discovering Elena's betrayal, everything had a terrible consistency. In Elena's life, in her family, he had always been an outsider, a role that could be sacrificed when needed. The next day, Miguel contacted his lawyer friend Javier, arranging to meet for lunch. "I'm sorry to hear this, Miguel," Javier said after hearing the whole story. "What do you plan to do?" "I don't know," Miguel admitted. "Part of me wants to save this marriage, but another part questions if there's anything left to save. From a legal perspective, if you decide to divorce, I suggest you collect evidence. Spanish divorce law doesn't require proof of fault, but evidence might be advantageous for property division." Miguel nodded. "What kind of evidence would be most useful?" "Communication records, witness testimonies, hotel bills, anything that can prove infidelity. But remember, everything must be obtained through legal means." When Miguel returned to the apartment, Elena was waiting in the living room, eyes swollen, clearly having not slept all night. "I've told Carlos everything is over," she immediately said. "I promise you, it was a mistake that will never happen again." Miguel sat across from her. "Why did you betray me, Elena? What's the real reason?" Elena took a deep breath. "At first, it was Carlos's praise for my work. He always said how excellent I was, that I deserved more. Then I started to believe that maybe I did deserve more, that my life could be more than it currently is. Being with me makes you feel constrained?" "No, it's not like that." Elena shook her head. "It's my own issue. I began to doubt my choices, to question whether our life is what I want. Carlos represented a possibility, a change. So I'm just an obstacle on your life path?" "No," Elena said emotionally. "You're my best choice, Miguel. I just got lost for a moment. Please give me a chance to prove I still love you." Miguel looked at this woman he once trusted without reservation, his heart full of contradictions. Part of him wanted to forgive her, to believe people truly do make mistakes. But another part couldn't forget the scene in the hotel hallway, couldn't ignore the humiliation at the wedding. "I need more time," Miguel eventually said. "I can't just pretend nothing happened." Over the next few weeks, Miguel outwardly returned to normal life, but inwardly was engaged in an intense struggle. He returned to the apartment, but chose to sleep in the guest room. During the day, he focused on work. At night, he organized his thoughts, evaluating his options. Meanwhile, he was secretly collecting evidence. Although Elena had deleted most of her communications with Carlos, Miguel found some traces still remained on the tablet she used. He also learned through mutual friends that Elena and Carlos's relationship was no secret in the office. Many colleagues knew about their special friendship. A month later, Miguel finally made his decision. When Elena again suggested going to couples counseling, he calmly said, "No, Elena, I think we both know this marriage is over." Panic flashed in Elena's eyes. "You can't just give up 7 years of feelings like this." "I'm not the one who gave it up, Elena. You made the choice. It was just a mistake. People make mistakes. The issue isn't just the affair, Elena," Miguel explained. "It's your overall attitude toward this relationship, the dismissiveness from you and your family, your choice to deceive rather than communicate. I no longer believe we have a true partnership." Elena began to cry, but this time Miguel didn't waver. He had seen her true side, the woman who smiled as she pushed him aside at the wedding, who met with her lover at a hotel. "I've contacted a lawyer," Miguel continued. "I hope we can handle the divorce proceedings civilly." "You've decided?" "Without even giving me a chance to prove myself." "You had many chances, Elena. Every time you chose to be with Carlos was a chance. You chose betrayal." That night, Elena moved to her sister's house. The apartment suddenly felt empty and quiet, but Miguel felt a strange calm. He knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but at least it was an honest one. Part 2. The carefully planned truth. After the divorce proceedings began, Miguel found that Elena was not going to let go easily. She hired a shrewd lawyer, attempting to obtain most of their joint property, including the savings Miguel had accumulated through years of hard work. "She claims your coldness and workaholism led to the breakdown of the marriage," Javier told Miguel during a meeting. "She also says your emotional neglect forced her to seek external support." Miguel smiled bitterly. "Interesting. The purpose of my work was for our future, yet she views this as an excuse for betrayal. We have evidence of her affair, which gives us a moral advantage, but its legal impact is limited. However, I have an idea, Javier said mysteriously. Miguel nodded. Yes, especially regarding relationships between employees of different levels. Carlos is her direct superior. This could be our breakthrough point. Miguel understood Javier's hint, but shook his head. I don't want to ruin her career, even in this situation. I just want fairness. Fairness requires truth, Miguel. And truth often brings consequences. In the following weeks, Miguel continued his daily life, focusing on work and rebuilding himself. He began attending a divorce support group, where the stories made him realize he wasn't alone. Many people had similar experiences, and their advice and support helped him through the most difficult periods. Meanwhile, Elena and Carlos's relationship seemed to become increasingly public. One of Miguel's colleagues saw Elena and Carlos together at a high-end restaurant on social media, looking intimate. This scene stung Miguel again, but also strengthened his resolve. However, the turning point came from a chance encounter. Miguel met Elena's colleague Sofia at a coffee shop near his company. They had exchanged words a few times at company events. I heard about your situation, Miguel, Sofia said as she sat down. I'm really sorry. Thank you. Miguel responded simply, uncertain whether to continue the topic. You know, Elena isn't Carlos's first special friend, Sofia suddenly said, her tone carrying a hint of disdain. Before Elena, he had a similar relationship with Isabella from the marketing department. Later, Isabella was transferred to a branch company, far from Madrid. Miguel felt a shock. You're saying Carlos has a pattern like this? Not just that, Sofia lowered her voice. There are rumors in the office that Carlos uses these relationships to advance his own career. He always chooses women with potential, gives them special attention, then uses their work results to enhance his own position. This information made Miguel think. Perhaps Elena wasn't just attracted by Carlos's charm, but also tempted by his promises in the workplace. If Carlos was really such a person, then Elena might be falling into a trap she hadn't yet realized. Why are you telling me this? Miguel asked curiously. Sofia sighed. Because I once warned Elena about Carlos, but she wouldn't listen. And I think you're a good person, Miguel. You shouldn't be treated this way. After leaving the coffee shop, Miguel decided to further investigate Carlos's background. Through social media and some mutual contacts, he discovered that Carlos indeed had a string of brief but intense office romances. After each relationship ended, those women either left the company or their career development stalled. This information gave Miguel an idea. If Carlos was truly a workplace manipulator, then Elena might be just another of his victims, although she herself might not have realized it yet. Miguel contacted Javier, sharing his discoveries. I think we can handle this problem in another way. I'm listening, Javier responded. Not by exposing Elena and Carlos's relationship to hurt Elena, but by revealing Carlos's pattern to protect others, while possibly helping Elena see the truth. Javier thought for a moment. This is an interesting approach. How do you plan to do it? Miguel explained his plan. Collect evidence of Carlos's past behavior, not just limited to his relationship with Elena, but including previous patterns. Then, at the appropriate time, give this information to the company's human resources department, not for revenge, but out of concern for a healthy company environment. This approach might still impact Elena's career. You realize that, right? Javier warned. Yes, but this is about truth, not revenge, Miguel said firmly. If Elena is affected by the truth, that's the result of her own choices. In the following weeks, Miguel carefully collected information. He contacted several former company employees, including Isabella, who had been transferred to the branch company. Initially, these people were hesitant, but after understanding Miguel's intentions, they began sharing their experiences. The pattern of stories was strikingly similar. Carlos targeted talented women, began giving special attention, developed private relationships, acquired their work results, then withdrew when the relationship became complicated or no longer useful. Meanwhile, the divorce proceedings continued. Elena's attitude changed from initial pleading to indifference, even hostility. She seemed confident she would gain an advantage, especially regarding property division. She's now completely immersed in her relationship with Carlos, Javier told Miguel during a meeting. She believes they have a perfect future. Miguel just shook his head, feeling a complex mix of emotions: anger, pity, and a touch of relief. Just a few weeks before the divorce was to be finalized, Miguel's plan began to take effect. He organized all the information collected, including testimonies from former employees, a timeline of Carlos's past relationships, and patterns of how he used these relationships to advance his career. Then, Miguel anonymously sent this information to the company's HR director and CEO, titled Serious Concerns About Workplace Conduct. He emphasized that this wasn't out of personal grudges, but concern for company culture and employee welfare. The effect was more rapid than Miguel expected. Just 3 days later, the company announced an internal investigation into Carlos. The news quickly spread through the office, and several women bravely came forward to share their experiences. Elena was shocked by this sudden turn of events. She contacted Miguel, her voice full of panic. "Do you know the company is investigating Carlos?" "I've heard some rumors," Miguel calmly replied. "This is absurd. They say he has a history of manipulating female colleagues, but that's not true at all. I know Carlos. He's not that kind of person." Miguel chose not to reveal his role in the investigation. "Are you sure you really know him, Elena? Just like you once thought you knew me." This question silenced Elena for a moment. Then she softly said, "Anyway, this doesn't affect our divorce. I've decided my path." "So have I," Miguel simply responded. A week later, the company completed its preliminary investigation, with results that shocked Elena. Carlos was suspended, pending further investigation. Multiple women, including Isabella, who had previously remained silent, provided testimonies. Evidence showed that Carlos did indeed use his position to develop relationships with subordinates and use their work results to enhance his own status. This news was a huge blow to Elena. Her professional status suddenly became uncertain, and the man she had relied on revealed his true face. She contacted Miguel again. This tone noticeably softened. "I think I may have made a mistake, Miguel." "Which mistake, Elena?" Miguel asked, no sarcasm in his voice, just a genuine question. "Everything. The relationship with Carlos, my attitude toward our marriage, the seating arrangement at the wedding." Her voice became shaky. "I was so focused on what I wanted that I forgot what we once had." Miguel took a deep breath, feeling a part of him still hurt for this woman who was once his wife. "I hope you find what you truly want, Elena. But it won't be with me. You won't give me a second chance." Elena's voice carried pleading. "This isn't about second chances, Elena. It's about who we've become. You chose a path, and so did I. Now we can only move forward separately." The divorce was finally settled 2 weeks later. The property division was fairer than Miguel initially expected, partly thanks to Elena's softened attitude. She seemed to finally understand the consequences of her actions and no longer insisted on her previously high demands. On the day they signed the final documents, Elena asked Miguel, "Did you know everything about Carlos? Was it you who initiated the investigation?" Miguel looked into her eyes, calmly replying, "The investigation was based on facts and evidence, Elena. I just ensured that the truth was presented." Elena nodded, her eyes showing understanding and a touch of regret. "I hope someday you can forgive me, Miguel." "I already have, Elena," Miguel said sincerely. "But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or going back to the past. It only means I won't let this experience define my future." As they walked out of the lawyer's office, each heading in a different direction, Miguel felt an unprecedented lightness. He knew the road to recovery was still long, but today was the first step toward a new beginning. Several months later, Miguel received an email from Elena. She wrote that she had left the company and started a new position. The investigation of Carlos eventually led to his departure, and he seemed to have left Madrid. She also wrote that she had begun psychological counseling, working to understand her choices and behavioral patterns. Miguel replied with a brief but sincere blessing, then closed his computer. Outside the window, Madrid's sunshine was brilliant, a new day beginning. He thought of the new bridge project he was designing, a structure connecting two small islands, expected to last 100 years. Like that bridge, life also needs solid foundations, needs honesty, respect, and true partnership. He picked up his coat, preparing to attend a divorce support group meeting. There, he not only found support, but also began helping others experiencing similar pain. Sometimes, the deepest wounds can be transformed into the greatest growth. As he left the apartment, Miguel recalled that heartbreaking scene at the wedding, sitting alone in the aisle, treated as an outsider. Now, he understood that moment was actually a liberation, a signal from the universe helping him realize his true position in Elena's life. Sometimes, the greatest rejection can lead us to the most authentic acceptance. The deepest betrayal can guide us to find the most sincere loyalty, and the most painful ending might be the most meaningful beginning. Miguel walked on Madrid's warm streets, his heart full of anticipation for the unknown future. He was no longer that husband arranged in the aisle, but the protagonist of his own life, ready to write a brand new chapter. If this story resonated with you, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more wonderful content. Looking forward to seeing you in our next story.